Okay, everybody, so what I want to talk about today is how we can make ourselves more comfortable with pentatonics, and more importantly, just really kind of view that as we go through the forms of the pentatonic shapes, so many things repeat in ways that we may not realize. Let's take it like this. We're going to be in A minor. A minor is a really good key to work in here. So, of course, I have my first position of A minor pentatonic. It looks just like this. Everybody knows that scale, everybody loves that scale. So what I'm going to talk about is where my A's are. And I have an A here. This is the 4th string, 7th fret. I have an A here on the 5th fret, 6th string. And I have an A here, of course, on 2nd string, 10th fret. Now, when I play, I can stick to things that are rooted in tradition. That's what I'm trying to say. And when I do that, oftentimes I end with an A note, or this note here, in this case, with my 3rd finger on the 4th string, 7th fret. So mentally, the first thing that I think of is anytime I have an A note, and I'm going to resolve it with my 3rd finger, I can execute the same types of ideas. I can get the blues note in there. Let's reference that blues scale real quick just for anybody to catch up to speed. That's 5, 6, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 8. And the rest, of course, is pentatonic, 5, 8, 5, 8. So what I can do there is I can slide up. And these are simple licks. We're not trying to go crazy with the licks. It's the visualization of the fretboard. So then I can take this, I can put my 3rd finger on this A, and I get the same thing. I'm thinking like a piano player as I move to this one on the 10th fret, 2nd string. A piano player can do a lick, or play on the piano, move to a different octave and create that same thing with the same fingering. So I'm trying to think that way on the guitar. I'm trying to say, okay, well, I've got this here that's going to be the same, and I have this here that's going to be the same, and this here that's going to be the same, all of which is connected with this low to high movement, starting with the 5th fret, 6th string, in the same spot. And then that could lead me to jumping down to the high string in this case, and resolving and ending on that A. So I'm seeing it all the same way. And as I learn my licks and different phrases, whatever they may be, I can kind of apply it to this concept of visualizing how the fretboard is laid out. Now, the other thing to think about, of course, is where they will be in other locations. I have an A here. I might pull down on that because it's a lower string. Here in the 4th form of your pentatonic scale, that looks like this. And I gotta say, a lot of people may see my videos from nextlevelguitar.com or Rock on Good People on YouTube. Tons of good content on that website, so if you stumble upon this, first go to that website and look it up. There's all kinds of stuff, that scale diagrams and a bunch of other lessons that pertain to some of this information. And when I resolve to my A here, if I do it with the 3rd finger, I'm going to be out of my position because typically, we've got a different shape there. You can relate it to the way that you tune the guitar, if that makes it easier. So I have my middle finger on the A, and again, I'm getting all the same notes every time I go, and I go through this way. Now, a lot of these things can be connected, of course, like this. You do these things all the time in songs that you learn. You're just kind of putting a sense of context to them. And the other thing is to say that when I go through a pentatonic scale and I add another shape to it, say I'm practicing all my shapes of pentatonic, I'm visualizing in my head that the last notes of this one are going to be the first notes of the next one. So essentially all I'm doing is adding one note every time I do a shape of pentatonic. And that's eye-opening in itself, because oftentimes as you play through these shapes, you think, oh man, it's another shape, I got to find licks within this. And we're not thinking, well, wait a minute, we're just adding one note every time. And therefore, if that's the idea, what about this? If I have a phrase, and it starts with the lower note, or the, my third finger in this case, from my first form of the pentatonic. If I put my first finger where I started that lick in the second form, right? And I go down now, I'm not going to play this note, I'm going to work this way in the scale. That one's not in the equation. I'm going to go, and I'm going to get the same exact thing that I did in the first shape. Again, I put my third finger note or the last note of the first form, making it the first form of the second, and following it down the same way. And at that point, I really see a lot for myself. I can go, that's 7, 10, 7, 9, 8, 10. That's the same as this. And then, when you play like that, if you're at all comfortable with it and you work into these Albert King-ish type ideas, suddenly now I can go, and I'm playing a little bit differently. I'm going to improvise different. I'm going to trust my subconscious a little bit differently by the way that I'm going to approach it in that position. I have other things as well. If I go, like we were talking about, I have that now. If I go from here, this E, I can go from this E. And I can replace that. And I'm staying on the lower strings. A lot of times when we transfer up into other forms of pentatonic, we kind of do this more on the higher strings. We don't think about the possibility of staying sometimes lower. Now that was doing, which I've talked about in other videos, but I'm resolving a little bit further. So I'm trying to find as many possible ways that I can recreate the same things in other shapes by following that simple guideline of realizing how many times my notes repeat. And from this low to high movement, I get so much out of that. And I'm just repeating the same thing over and over and over again, and really finding ways that I can try to do things different and maybe work in new patterns that I'm thinking of at the time, whatever they may be, And from there on out, I'm recognizing every time I land where my A's are and taking the time to figure them out. I have one here. I have one here. I'm in the third form. I can go straight up. So, and I get this bluesy feel, and I'm working in different shapes and approaching things in ways that might make me improvise differently, and that's the most important thing. So I hope you find this to be helpful. Again, if any part of this moves quick, trying to get as much information in as I can in a short little lesson, please just pause it for a moment and work these things out. I think it's really helpful to point out to yourself as you play it exactly what I'm saying, so that way you don't try to digest too much information all at one time. Just take it nice and slow. So thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. And again, I will see you next time.